All right, welcome to another series in my Python, in my series where I read this book here, Python for DevOps. Last series I just read through kind of the beginning, publishing information, getting a sense of when it was published and who the authors are. So this is the beginning of chapter 1, Python Essentials for DevOps. DevOps, the combination of software development with information technology operations, has been a hot field during the last decade. Traditional boundaries among software development, deployment, maintenance, and quality assurance have been broken, enabling more integrated teams. Python has been a popular language both in traditional IT operations and in DevOps due to its combination of flexibility, power, and ease of use. The Python programming language was publicly released in the early, I do have some more here, 1990s for use in system administration. It has been a great success in this area and has gained wide adoption. Python is a general-purpose programming language used in just about every domain. The visual effects and motion picture industries embraced it. More recently, has become the de facto language of data science and machine learning. It has been used across industries from aviation to bioinformatics. And I made a post on this channel to look at EEG technology if you're interested in that, because I tried to make a video on this and this word bioinformatics sent me on a rabbit hole on the internet, and so I reported on my findings, and so that's in I put it in the discussion tab, so maybe if you look at the community section of this channel, you'll see what I brought up from that rabbit hole. Python has an extensive arsenal of tools to cover the wide-ranging needs of its users. Learning the whole Python standard library, the capabilities that come with any Python installation, would be a daunting task. Trying to learn all the third-party packages that enliven the Python ecosystem would be an immense undertaking, and there's new ones all the time. You can even create your own. The good news is that you don't need to do those things. You can become a powerful DevOps practitioner by learning only a small subset of Python. In this chapter, we draw on our decades of Python DevOps experience to teach only the elements of the language that you need. These are the parts of Python DevOps that are used daily. They form the essential toolbox to get things done. Once you have these core concepts down, you can add more complicated tools, as you'll see in later chapters. Installing and running Python. If you want to try the code in this overview, you need Python 3.7 or later installed. Let's see what I have. I'm pretty sure I have 3.8. But this is another good reason to check the publishing information at the beginning, because if you're reading a book from 5-10 years ago, you probably won't even be able to get the, some things that they're using, or you'll have such a newer version that the examples are irrelevant. So I've got 3.8.3. I'm pretty much right on track with what they got. Ahead a little bit. The latest release is 3.8.0. As of this writing, I have 3.8.3. And access to a shell. I've got that right there. In Mac OS X, Windows, and most Linux distributions, you can open the terminal application to access a shell. To see what type of Python you are running, open a shell and type Python -- version. So let's open a shell. Now this is where it gets really tricky, and I've got another series I'm doing called Wild Networking. Because we can see what's going on here. My Python version is we just saw that it was 3.8. So I'm not sure that they're going to talk about this, but you would use Python. Oh, what happened? Okay, I don't understand what's happening there. But let me open a different terminal. I'm going to open the git bash terminal that I have installed. Okay, I don't know why I can't do this, but that would be something I would go over in my wild networking series. For now, I'm just going to keep reading this book. Python 3.8.0, Python installers can be downloaded directly from the python.org website. Alternately, you may use a package manager such as apt, rpm, macports, homebrew, chocolatey, or many others. The Python shell, the simplest way to run Python is to use the built-in interactive interpreter. Just type Python in a shell, and you can then interactively run Python statements. Type exit to exit the shell. Okay, so here already see, this bothers me a lot about these tutorials. Like they should set you up for good habits right away. Like I think a better way to do it, I mean, first of all, there's something wrong with this because it needs to be Python 3. And I don't know why it's not Python 3, and Windows is annoying when it comes to that sort of stuff. So I guess I'm going to try to reinstall it. Oh, this would bring me up to 3.9, but I think that's okay. Okay, let's try to reinstall it so that it, yeah, so I think this is the problem. I didn't have this checked when I installed my 3.8 version. Okay, so hopefully this will happen here. Ah, there we go, perfect. Okay, so Python scripts. Python code runs from a file with the .py extension. Save this code to a file named hello.py to invoke the script in a shell. Run Python followed by the file name. Python scripts are how most production Python code runs. Okay, hopefully this will install soon. I've got a hard limit on this video. I'm going to drop it I'm going to stop it at about in like 15 minutes. Okay. Now, since I had I have that checkbox checked now. So if I do Python, oh, we still got that. But what if I do Python 3? Okay, it's still even though I checked that box, it's still not behaving in the way I wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to just get a I'm going to use basically like a virtual machine on here. It's this Ubuntu app, and then I can just use this special environment and not have to worry about what I'm doing being different from the book, because using this, like, Windows is kind of the new like when I was growing up, Windows used to be I think the the easiest to use, but if you're a developer nowadays, Windows is just really hard to use because it just doesn't work the same way as other systems. It's its own special proprietary operating system. It's not like Linux where you can just go and get the code for it. So we've reached this nowadays, like it seems like there's products developed just by regular people that are used more widely than for example yeah, so you know, it used to be that Windows was the main thing you would use, and you'd only use Ubuntu or Linux or something like that if you were like really tech. But now it almost seems like it's the other way around. Like if you are a special, like if like yeah, it's like in my opinion, you can't get very far with development if you don't pick up Ubuntu, because just all your tutorials are going to be really different. Okay, but let's keep reading while that's downloading. IPython. Besides the built-in interpretive shell, several third-party interactive shells run Python code. One of the most popular is IPython. IPython offers retrospection, the ability to dynamically get information about objects, syntax highlighting, special magic commands, which we touch on later in this chapter, and many more features, making it a pleasure to use for exploring Python. To install IPython, use the Python package manager, pip. I'm not sure what the I stands for. Python something package. Pip install IPython. Running is similar to running the built-in interactive shell described in the previous section. Alright, so let's see if I have that in here, IPython. Seems like I do. I wonder what version it is. 2.7. Can I still... Okay, I wonder if I can just get rid of Python 2.0. Because this is taking forever. Let me try that. I wonder if I can get rid of Python 2.0. Yeah, here we go, Python 2. Everything is so difficult. Okay, so instead of clicking the X, I will click that. I don't know why it was so small, but yeah, so the problem is this python.exe here corresponds to Python 2 and not Python 3. Yeah, we can see the name of this is Python 3.exe, so yeah, let's just try deleting that. What happens if I do that? That's probably a really bad idea if I do that. Ah, I did it. I did it. Yes. I think I did it. What was this named to before? Okay, I didn't do it because it's running 9 now instead of 3, but at least it's behaving predictably now. Um, or it's having the same behavior as is in this book here. But I'd like to kind of go outside of what the book says and introduce anyone watching this channel to a better way to use the Python initially. I'm going to need to take a quick break. I'll be back soon. Alright, I'm back, and I wanted to go a little bit outside of what the book said here. If you have Python 3 installed, you can do this with Python 2 as well, but it's really designed to be a feature of Python 3. You can do something called creating a virtual environment. So we saw, how much of a pain it was to, use certain commands. I didn't know if I used the Python, it pulled up Python 2, and I thought I had a command Python 3 like this, but that wasn't working. I thought I had a command like this, but that wasn't working. So what you can do is create a folder for your project. So I'm going to create a new directory, mkdir, my project, and then you can change into that folder. So cd into the my project directory. And then you can create what is called a Python virtual environment. So I use the same term Python for Python 3, and then I can use this -m identifier here. So if I do a -info and look at the options here, this MOD here stands for module. So I can use a module instead of opening a terminal if I use that -m flag. So the module I'm going to use is called venv. So in order to use this module, you need to pass it another argument, which is the name of your venv, which stands for a virtual environment. So we'll just call it venv. Typically your name does not need to be special, and if you just stick with the name venv, anyone who comes to your project knows that, okay, this is a virtual environment. So I wouldn't get fancy with that. I just call it venv because then it's clear that it is a venv and you don't need any special information. So it takes a little bit of time for that to create, but once it is created, you can take a look at what's in your directory. On Windows, you'll have to use dir. Linux, it'll be ls. And you can see a new folder with venv. So we can go inside that folder. We can take a look around. We've got include, lib. We've got basic things that come in there by default. So the next step, once you have that, is to go back to your main my project directory and to activate the virtual environment. So it's a little bit different on each type of OS, because these files generate based on your OS. So we can see I've got the scripts folder inside here. So to activate this venv, the command is source. Or sorry, no, the command is like this. This is how you run executables in Windows. And then it's going to be venv. Oops, or is it a backslash? Okay, activate. There we go. So activate is a file within the venv directory. We can take a look at that. Okay, so activate, we can see it's a BAT file. We've also got a file here. I think this is the file we'll be running. So let's see if it's probably a compiled file, but we'll take a look at it. Okay, it's not compiled. So yeah, here it is. It's if you want to see it, you can see it, but it's really not important what the specifics are in that file. What is important is to actually go through this process, because you can see that now we've got an extra few characters here that say the name of that folder that we created for the virtual environment within parentheses. So what this does is, now that I'm in a virtual environment, the commands I enter are specific to that virtual environment and not specific to what happens to be set up on my PC. So this is really important because when you hand off a project to someone, they might have a different kind of setup on their PC. In fact, they might not even be using the same operating system as you. You might be developing this on Windows, and they might be using a Mac. So if you use this virtual environment and you hand someone your project, they can activate the virtual environment using whatever command they need to on their computer. On Linux, it's usually source vnv bin activate. Bin is usually the file. So they can create their own virtual environment and activate it, and then using particular files in your virtual environment, one of them being a file called requirements.txt, they can set up their virtual environment to ensure that it will run the code that you've written. So that's really important to include in all your projects, is virtual environments, because you can guarantee that your code will run on any computer as long as they go through the steps of setting up the virtual environment and installing the modules that your project will use in that virtual environment. And then the really good thing about that is when you are done, you can deactivate your virtual environment, and now in your terminal you can use your local setup. So let's say I have a special project where for whatever reason, I'm going to be, let's say, programming, I'm going to be using it to program older switches that require, for some reason, an older version of a Python module. I can have this virtual environment and I can create a requirements.txt file. Like this, and then I can say one of the modules I want is so I'm going to want IPython, but I can say the version I want. So I want 1.0.0, but for now I'll just demo how to actually use this file. So I won't specify the version, but that's one thing you could do. And the reason you would want to do that is, if you need that special case, all a user has to do to get that is create their virtual environment, as we saw with that really easy to use command, python-m vnv, activate that virtual environment, as we saw on Windows, /, but on Linux the command will be source. I've never really done it on a Mac, but you can do it on a Mac as well. And the last step is to download those requirements into the virtual environment. And now that you have the virtual environment, you can just use pip, because it doesn't depend on how your local PC is set up, and then install -r requirements.txt. And now you get these really fancy graphics, everything. You might not get that if you don't have the virtual environment installed. In fact, you'll probably get a lot of error messages, and you can probably get it to go, but it'll be sloppy and awful and a complete headache. So I kind of wish the book had touched on that. It's kind of a mark against this book, to be honest, but we're going to keep going with it, and hopefully get a lot of value out of it. So I'm going to deactivate the virtual environment. Before I do that, though, I'm going to do a Python, and then I'm going to do import IPython, or actually I'm going to do this. I'm going to do quit IPython version. Okay, so we see we've got version 7.22.0. So I'm going to do deactivate, and the same command, IPython version. Oh, and you can see here, We don't even have IPython installed now because I deactivated my virtual environment, and IPython is a module that is only installed within that virtual environment. So that can be really useful, and in fact sometimes you'll just have all kinds of headaches and frustrations where if you had just taken some time to learn this, not too simple, but definitely kind of unusual for people new to Python, especially coming from Python, to take some time to learn this. It will really save you a lot of headaches. So unfortunately, I am out of time. I've got to work at 8. So how far did we get? I would say we got as far as, let's just read this. I've got 2 minutes. Jupyter Notebooks, a spin-off from the IPython project. The Jupyter project allows documents containing text, code, and visualizations. These documents are powerful tools for combining running code, output, and formatted text. Jupyter enables the delivery of documentation along with the code. It has achieved widespread popularity, especially in the data science world. Here is how to install and run Jupyter Notebooks. This command opens a web browser tab showing the current working directory. From here you can open existing notebooks in the current project or create new ones. So I've got 1 minute here, so let's do that quick. So we're going to do \vnv. It actually is a /. Oh, actually, I gotta change it to my. And this is where beginners go astray. They aren't aware of which folder they need to be in, and they try to run commands that aren't available in unless they're in a particular folder. Okay, and then we'll do a pip install. Okay, so that's going to be it for this series. I might try to. No, I don't think I've got time here. I got 1 minute. So that's it for this series. I will see you in the next one where we read about procedural programming.